Okay? Or if you want to use a different metaphor, it's like understanding a baseball game applying the rules of basketball. It just doesn't work that way. It's like asking theoretical physicists to explain evolutionary biology. Well, theoretical physicists wouldn't know where to begin with, because evolutionary biology has very little to do with quantum mechanics. So these are valid scientific questions, but they cannot be held against evolutionary biology. So, well, you haven't explained the origin of life, therefore, what are you talking about? It just doesn't work that way. The last point that I want to make before concluding the opening statement is to address the question of, well, does the variety of life on Earth require intelligent design? Which is, of course, why most people that are here tonight are interested in. And intelligent design, of course, can be a variety of things. Creationists don't necessarily agree on what intelligent design is to begin with. Some of them think of certain kind of God. Some of them actually think of, believe it or not, very smart extraterrestrials, a Star Trek. But the question is, there are logical objections to the applications of intelligent design theory to the explanation of life on Earth. One is that it violates what is called Occam's razor. Occam's razor, which was proposed by William of Ockham in the 13th century, is actually the idea that you should avoid unnecessary hypotheses in order to explain something. What is an unnecessary hypothesis? Well, for example, I can explain why you're looking at this presentation based on the laws of physics. Based on what little I know about physics, I can tell you that there are some electrons that are coming here from my computer and they go down here, falling all the way up there, back to the projector, and the projector generates an image that is projected. I can explain both with optics and sort of other physics what's happening. I could also say, on top of that, there is a tiny little green monster which is actually taking these images from here and bringing them directly up there. That's possible. You would have to ask me, first of all, if it is invisible, how do you know that it's green, for one thing? But do I need that kind of explanation? No, I don't. That doesn't mean that there is no little green monster bringing my little electrons all the way to the image. It just is that I don't need that explanation. And it's not a good scientific theory. The reason for that is because you can come up with an infinite number of alternative stories that would all be equally unfalsifiable. There would be no way to test if they're right or not. And it would be all equally redundant. That's what Occam's razor does, and that's what creationism does with evolution. The second thing that creationism does with respect to evolution is it violates something that is sometimes called Hume's dictum. Hume didn't say exactly along these lines, I'm paraphrasing here, but essentially said that when you want me to believe about extraordinary claims, you have to provide extraordinary evidence. The more extraordinary the claim is, the more extraordinary the evidence has to be. Let me give you another example. Suppose that a friend of yours tells you, just 5 minutes ago, I walked across the street and I went to the Coke machine and got a Coke. Well, you wouldn't require any evidence from that kind of statement, because that's a fairly believable statement. It may or may not be true. I mean, I might not have walked over there, but nevertheless, it doesn't really tickle your curiosity that much. But what if that person says, I just disappeared from the front of this building and I materialized on the other side of the street and got my Coke and then rematerialized back. Now you've got my attention. And now the question is, well, okay, what kind of evidence do you have that you can actually materialize and dematerialize at will? Why? Because that's a fairly extraordinary claim. And if you want me to believe that's a fairly extraordinary claim, you have to provide me fairly extraordinary evidence. So the difference between evolution and creation is that we have a pretty good explanation, by no means perfect, but a pretty good explanation, scientific and nature explanation of how life on Earth diversified. If you want me to believe otherwise, and if you want to believe that there was a direct intervention or supernatural being, which we have no evidence and no way to check what that supernatural being is, well, then the burden for instance is on the other side, which is what I just said. Now, why do I say this? Because there are a couple of basic observations you can make about life on Earth, which are really directly against any explanation of intelligent design. For one thing, the story of life on Earth is very idiosyncratic. It indicates, therefore, what scientists call contingency and necessity. Contingency is the hazard, a series of hazard events that have no particular reason to happen in one way or another, or at one time or another. And then necessity is natural selection. That is, the organisms that survive tend to be the ones that have the most fertile progeny. Well, one big example of contingency is the extinction of the dinosaurs. They got bad luck that day 65 million years ago when a meteor struck the Earth and wiped them out. They killed 100,000 other species. There's no reason why that could have happened. One should have happened one way or the other. It just did. There's some speculation, which is kind of interesting to think about, that if it didn't happen, dinosaurs would have evolved something like consciousness, and there will be a dinosaur here talking to you guys and trying to explain why is it that all these little mammals around here haven't made it beyond the stage of rats, which is what mammals were when the dinosaurs went extinct. It is possible that one of the reasons you're here tonight to enjoy these talks is because the dinosaurs went extinct 65 million years ago, but that was certainly a matter of contingency. The other kind of observation, which actually Darwin already made, is that organisms, contrary to what creationists would make you believe, are not well designed at all. In fact, they're fairly badly designed. One of the best examples of badly designed organisms is actually the eye. The human eye is usually brought up as an example of extremely complicated and very well designed structure. Well, it is extremely complicated. It has been designed by natural selection over hundreds of millions of years, and it works pretty well, although not perfectly, obviously, because right now I see an ocean of more or less undifferentiated people, if I take things off. So it's not perfect. But it's not perfect in a more fundamental way. For example, not many people realize that the human eye has blood vessels right in front of it, okay, in front of the retina, instead of where a good engineer would put them, which is behind. One of the things that does is it causes all sorts of vision problems, including the fact that you have a blind spot. Now, could it be designed better? Yes. Has it been designed better? Yes. If you look at the eye of squids or octopuses or animals of that sort, actually they have the blood vessels in the back, not in the front. So I would conclude that either there was no intelligent designer and squids just got luckier than human beings, or the intelligent designer liked human beings much better than squids much better than human beings, which is possible. Now, thank you. I will actually not be this is my last slide for the introductory statement. If you have not followed all that I said, or if you would like to learn more, that is the webpage where this thing is back there. It's called FTBio.edu Skeptic. I will repeat this later on during the rebuttal. As I said, it's quite difficult for people that are flooded with a lot of information all at once, actually to be able not to follow the whole thing. That happens to me quite often. So the presentation is up there for anybody to see. Now the question is, what is the evidence? Let me present you one little game. Suppose that you were looking at these pictures. Would you be able, without hesitation, to pick a human being as different from common ancestors of human beings or from other species of primates? In some cases it might be easy, but in some cases it might be a little bit difficult. It's not that easy. Here's the human being, it's down here. But look, Homo habilis and Rectus skulls look pretty much very similar, and those are two of our ancestors. And anything, in fact, within this slide is not that different. It's a clearly variation in the same theme. You can tell an Australopithecus, for example, from any of the Homos, because an Australopithecus was a much different kind of animal, although it is in the direct line of descent of human beings. But the point is, can you really look at a picture like that and think that you are completely different from anything else that is up there other than this? You have the same bones, they are organized in the same way, you have the same kind of chemical substances in the blood, you're made of the same proteins, of the same kind of DNA. In fact, the difference in DNA between human and chimp, on average, is about 2%. Can any rational person look at something like that and say, no, I really don't think that we're made of the same thing. We're completely different things. We're completely independent. We have no relationship whatsoever. That's what evolution tells you. You do have a relationship. Like it or not, I mean, I don't particularly enjoy being the descendant of this little fellow over here, but nevertheless, that is our best guess to what actually really happened. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so much for coming tonight. My name is Hovind. I taught high school science 15 years. years, and now I get to defend the biblical view of creation against those who believe in evolution. And I appreciate you pointing out the obvious similarities between all those different animals. I think it ought to be obvious to any freshman law student that that proves a common designer, not a common ancestor. But we'll get into more of that later. Anyway, I might prefer a point-by-point debate because Dr. Pigliucci made about 30 different points, and I've got several pages of notes, and we're never going to get through them all. In a point-by-point debate, instead of minute by minute, you can take one topic and finish it, as opposed to, give 20